Sunday morning. Stick around. The television center building. And Gold Gym. I'll have a little talk up here. I know a lot of you miss the bike content, so here's your 1950 Schwinn straight bar, single gear, Klunker, BMXer, bomber. I like to run a front brake on there. But we are out in front of Gold's Gym here in the Television City building. This was a place I spent a lot of time in the 90s. 93, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-ish. Those were my time. That was my time in there. And it was neat because you would meet all these people. It got to the point where I remember Christian Slater would always say hi to me. Maybe have a few words in the morning. And that was around the time, I think, what was it, True Romance, one of my favorite movies was that. Matter of fact, I used to see Bronson Pinchot, whatever his name is. He was in Beverly Hills Cop. He played the agent's assistant in that film. I remember him in there. His upper body, he's working his upper body, but his legs were like toothpicks, you know? And I remember Peter Criss or Paul Stanley from Kiss, I think it was, used to work out in there. A lot of people work out in there. It's kind of odd to me. Even back then, I remember thinking, why are they in here? Don't they have a gym at home? But the gym becomes a place where you get to talk to people. It's a social thing. That's kind of what it boils down to. And I used to work out here, my buddy Jed. And Jed was a real handsome dude. Yeah, so Jed and I used to work at Yankee Doodles in Santa Monica. And we used to work out here. So I used to work the door there, work as a bouncer on the floor, and then I started doing shifts bartending. And we were in here one day, and there's this big guy in there working out, and he needed a spot. And it turned out to be Huell Howser, of all people. And I didn't know who Huell Howser was at the time. I didn't have a TV. But we got along really well. And he gave me his number. It was really funny. So as I was saying, it was really funny. I'm playing with this mic, and I got to figure out how to arrange this thing. But anyhow, Huell and I exchanged phone numbers, and he got in this habit of calling me all the time, and we would talk for like hours at a time on the phone at night. He'd be all over the state doing his show, and then I started watching the show, and I understood what he was doing. I remember I kept pitching him an idea for my own show, which I wanted to call Counterculture, which would be me. I wanted to be the host of it. I still think it's a good idea. I was going to a lot of car shows back then, riding motorcycles, had an old 67 Dodge pickup, fleet side, that I built, did a bunch of work to it. Did a custom disc brake conversion kit to that, and posi traction rear end, dual exhaust headers, electronic ignition, all that stuff. It was like a race car, but it was my work truck. And but I was telling Huell, like, dude, your show's great. It's just really G-rated, which it was PBS and it was Huell, you know. But I always wanted to do a show that the idea of it sprung from going to all these car shows because I was meeting all these artists, people making their own stuff, making their own money. And I was hanging out with dudes that were blue-collar guys, you know, and women that were doing burlesque and strippers and, you know, nude artists and all that kind of thing. And these were like real, a lot of them were patriotic American, you know, blue-collar, hard-working people that nobody highlights in life. Yeah, it's a weird thing because to me, they're the coolest people. They're the ones that make everything cool, all right? That's my opinion. And I would always try to sell him on that idea for a show. He just yesed me to death. Because what I didn't realize was, because I was kind of naive when I got here, I suppose, to a certain degree, is that Huell was gay. And Huell had a crush on me, and I just didn't get it. You know, I wasn't thinking about it in those terms. And but he never was overt about it. He wasn't some sort of predator or anything like that. And the thing that Huell and I both had in common was the Marine Corps. So that was a neat thing we got to talk about. And I got to goof on him about it because he was in the Air Wing, which I knew about those guys because when I was in the Corps, some of you guys know what I did there, but I ended up getting busted at one time, and I had to go to drug and alcohol rehab at El Toro, which was a Marine Corps air base. And so hanging out with air wingers there was really funny to me because, you know, their camis, they might even have holes in their camis. That's how bad it was. They wear their cap on the back of their head there, and boots weren't polished, that sort of thing. It was really, really funny. So, yeah. And I used to goof on Huell about that. But we got to be pretty good pals. And once I kind of picked up on the fact that he was like into me, I kind of pulled back a little bit to a certain extent, but then I also got busy with stuff. And then I started running into him down on Larchmont. I'm going to cruise you by where he used to live and share some other stories while I'm riding the bike. How's that sound? All right. We're going to head down to this building that Huell used to live in. It's pretty cool. And I used to see him down on Larchmont a lot. And I remember the first time I saw him on Larchmont, this was years after we, you know, weren't talking regularly. And he came up, he sat down, he said, "What's going on, Mike? Hey, Mike." It was always, "Hey, Mike." You know, really, you know, Huell, if you ever watched the show, that's who he was all the time. It was really interesting. And, anyhow, we started talking. He would always ask me to come by his place to look at some antique he thought might be worth some money or something. And I did. I'd meet him over by his building and check some stuff out. He was still hopeful. And by that time, I had learned with these guys, just be direct. You know, just be like, "Hey, man, I'm not into that. It's not my thing." And they're cool. But it's funny because when I first moved to LA, well, shoot. I left Jersey, I drove across the country. I actually left from Pennsylvania. And there was this girl I knew when I was in the Corps, and she said, "Oh, you can stay at my place." She was in Thousand Oaks, but I didn't know anything about California. I didn't know how far away that was from the city. And I also didn't know at the time that she was living with her mom and her stepdad and her brother. There was a lot of wild stuff going on in that house. I had to get out of there. So every day I drove down to Los Angeles and I pulled a number off a pole for extra work, and I started doing extra work. And I met these girls, and they had a friend who needed a roommate, and he was down in West Hollywood. His name was Ron. So I go to meet Ron. He tells me to meet him at this place. I'm on Santa Monica Boulevard in, again, West Hollywood. I don't even think about what's going on. I walk in and everybody's staring at me and literally looking at my crotch. It was bizarre. I actually looked down to see if my fly was open, and Ron shows up. You know, I got like a coffee and something, and we you know, coffee and a donut or something, and I waited outside for him. And then when he showed up, we're sitting outside talking, and I'm like, "Hey, man, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with the way I'm dressed?" He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I walked into this place and all these people are staring at me." He goes, "Well, did you notice they were all men?" And I'm like, "No, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, yeah, they're all gay." And I'm thinking, no way. And he says, "Yeah." He says, he's not only all men, he says they're all gay. I'm like, "That's not possible. How's that possible?" I had no idea. He says, "Yeah, this is where all the gay guys live, West Hollywood." Really? That's how naive I was at the time. This was 92, September of 92. And I had no idea. I had no idea that one group of people could take over a whole town. It was really funny. I had to come up with this mantra. So I had to come up with this mantra after living here for just a few weeks, which was treat everyone as gay until proven straight. And that's just because from where I'm from, I was just blurting out certain things. I mean, these days you'd get flagged for hate speech or something just for having a normal conversation like most people spoke, you know. And I didn't want to make anybody feel bad. And I've said it before, as kooky as LA is, it definitely made me a better human being. Oh, I looked at a project at this house once. I think my price was too high. There's a lot of work around here. I'm going to show you something right here you guys are going to dig on. You guys aren't going to believe this. Right here on the right, this little brick wall here. Do you recognize this white house? This is the Cunningham's house. This is the Happy Days house, right there. Fonzie lived in the back. Actually, this was just for exteriors. Oh, look, the people who live here are pulling out. Yeah, so that's the house from Happy Days, right there. LA, it's one of those places. So Huell lived in this building right there, but I'm right here on Rossmore, which turns into Vine once you cross over Melrose, which is up there at that light. But I had to show you this building here and this fire escape. You see that? I spent a night on the roof of that building one night with a buddy of mine. We had a bottle of Maker's Mark, and what else did we have? We had another bottle of some other high-end bourbon, and we climbed this fire escape and drank those bottles of booze. And then the woman whose family owns the building has a unit on the top floor where they opened up a couple walls there, and it was like a giant apartment, and we hung out there. But I don't remember much else because, you know, I drank a whole bottle of booze. I am shocked that we were able to get off that roof and survive, because it's kind of precarious. And I do a lot of stuff like that. You guys know when I used to do that stuff with that conservative street artist Sabo, and that was in the mid to late 90s. So yeah, LA, it's pretty crazy when you live in a place for as long as I have, all the wild stuff that you've done in all these little buildings all over the place. Stretch of road here on Rossmore with these old buildings, because they were built at a time when this was not the norm in Los Angeles. And yeah, a lot of well-to-do people live in these buildings, or at least they used to. Yeah, so that's the El Royale. I'm pretty sure that's where Huell used to live. It is kind of hard to remember because it was, you know, so long ago that I was here visiting him. But that's the spot. Light, but this here is we're coming into is Larchmont Boulevard. I'm on Larchmont. This used to be like downtown Main Street, USA. Super cool, but it is no longer as cool as it used to be. It's just too crowded. There used to be a bakery right over here, and where the Rite Aid is used to be a hardware store. Don't pull out in front of me. Yeah. The stop signs didn't used to be here. There just wasn't this many people, you know. That's the guy. And I haven't been in this thing in a while. I don't even come down here anymore, and I live just a couple blocks away. It just used to be such a fun place, and now it's just overly crowded with too many people. Not what it used to be. And in the 90s, it was really cool because a lot of celebrities live in the area. And I'd have breakfast, right? I used to have breakfast next to John Malkovich right over here all the time. Had a lot of fun experiences and conversations down here with a lot of these people over the years. But yeah, you can't even ride a bicycle down here anymore. It's crazy. And it's pretty early on a Sunday morning. Let's try not to get killed. Anyhow, that was Larchmont. And so this is just under Beverly here, Hancock Park. This is an area I've been walking through for literally 30 years. And I've got a lot of clients down here. This house needs some fascia work. You can see it. It's actually rotting. You know what I'll do? I'll take you by a house that's pretty cool. Yeah, so right here, this driveway here, this house on the corner used to belong to Ellen DeGeneres when she was married to Anne Heche. And I remember, I think she had like a convertible Audi or something. And I'd see their two little heads in that car as they were backing out all the time. It was kind of funny. Okay, so actually right here is a good spot for a little story. I mean, not much of a story, but I used to build these bikes, and I still do, it's just been a while. I was always looking for a wall to photograph them at, and I was here one day. It's a nice plain flat wall, and to keep the bike from rolling, because it's a hill here, I put one of my little pocket knives down to keep the thing straight. And some people were walking up the street, so I don't know, I always felt weird about that. So I got on the bike and rode away. And I realized I left my pocket knife on the sidewalk, and I came back the next day and rode by here. I mean, I didn't think the knife would still be here, but somebody had picked it up and placed it right here on one of these bricks. So I was able to get my knife back. How crazy is that? I've been trying to sign out of this video here for a bit. It's just so busy here. People walking around, loud cars driving, and I'm on the back streets. I envy you guys that don't live in a city. You just make a video anywhere without being distracted. I just wanted to say that I think a lot of you guys are here because of the Wonderhussy videos, right? I think she could be the new Huell Howser. I told her I was going to kind of put a video together talking about knowing Huell. There's not much I can really say. I already said it all, I think. I mean, we had countless conversations. I can't remember every single thing he ever told me. Of course, I had other things going on in my head at that time. But, you know, she could be, I mean, she's already doing it, really. I think she's more interesting in a lot of ways. You remember Huell had his buddy Louie behind the camera. So the last time I saw Sarah at the hot springs, I told her, I was like, hey, if you want, I'll film you. We'll see how that works out. But I think she could do that, a show like that, if they were ever looking for a new person to kind of revitalize that old show, California's Gold. I don't know. But I'm driving past some houses here I've done some work on too. Anyhow, that's it for now. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being here. And, you know, be good to one another.